Okay, let's have a moment of silence, please. Call for quorum, Jean? No. No. We can't adopt the agenda. We can't approve the minutes. Nominating committee, Grace?
Yeah, there is a
You're
treasurer's.
after that. She's after that. You're now. I'm after the treasurer? No, you're now.
I'd like for this to be reflected in the minutes, since so many people aren't here. And even though we maybe don't have a large public people listening, I want to have the Landcare Committee consider the 2024 nominating committee recommendations. This was sent out as an attachment with a worksheet, but I would like to have it reflected in the minutes because there's been a lot of discussion and wanting to know history of how we had a nominating committee and how officers, for all transparency, has been over the years how we get our officers and how they're elected. It was not until we have two particular drafts, not a draft, committee bylaws that in the bylaw committees, in the Landcare Committee bylaws in 2012, that was the first time there had been a revision with the approval of the town council. And under election procedures, the chair shall open the floor for nominations, whereupon the names of appointees may not be put forward by the may be put forward by the MLC members. All nominees shall be MLC members. That's something we need to think about and discuss in just 1 second. After the discussion of the names submitted, the chair shall call the roll of the members and each member shall cast his or her vote. The nominees receiving the highest number would be appointed. So that was how, even at the beginning of Landcare, they would gather together for a meeting, they would nominate people, and they were all on the committee. So it became a very interesting officer selection. So by the time we had the revisions, and I came in as the chair in 2021 of October, over the previous months, we did have another revised town council approval of committee bylaws for the Landcare. And in that, under leadership, there is an election procedures. The chairperson will appoint a nominating committee at the October or November meeting. Now, we are now in June, but we have a chair that's on top of things and has it a little earlier. This committee will seek candidates for each office. And then at the December meeting, this would be next 2025, the nominating committee will present a slate of nominees to be voted. So this particular revision was extremely important because we wanted to be sure that we had support from the community as well as not just coming in. Maybe people had been asked to do it. But my point is, this change in the bylaw has a different election. So if you go back to other years when Martha Campbell and Bill Seaman were chairs, there was no nominating committee. So now to do the business of the day, we have considerations that the present nominating committee is made up of 2 people. Bill Seaman, who couldn't be here today, is the chair. He has been a professor, as you know, in the collegiate environment. So he is very detailed and very organized, and he has given, with the attachment to your agenda that you received, as well as it can be attached again with the minutes. This is the status of the nominating committee. Bill and Grace Nichols agree that, I'm Grace, and I forgot to say I was Grace. 2 of us agree that a larger committee is desirable and are vetting possible additions as to broaden our identification of the pool of talent in the community. We have contacted 3 most recent chairs to get brief versions of their most important topics for Landcare to address in 2025. We're distributing today a worksheet where members of Landcare can identify possible nominees, self-nominations, Well, welcome. We're trying to determine the membership of recent nominating committees. So as I've cleared that one up, we've only actually had one nominating committee, even though we maybe had people, when I was asked to be at the chair, 2 or 3 people got together, but they were not officially on the bylaws as a nominating committee. So that's what we've been researching and looking at. Finally, our ideal circumstances, and this is up for discussion maybe in another time, but we're going to have circumstances be making the nominations that would be enlist individuals who would move up the ranks. Montreat Cottagers has a vice chair for 1 year. That next year they go to a president. And we're considering that so that the flow would be there. That's something that once we have a committee meeting, we would come back to you in the fall. Nominating guidelines. The Landcare Committee bylaws state that in January of odd years, which would be 2025, we would elect the officers for 2-year terms. That's how it is presently. And that moving up thing is not related to the bylaws in this state, in this case. Note, now this is the new thing. Note that the bylaws are silent concerning whether nominees or officers need to be members of Landcare. We have the entities and members, the voting members, from college, town, conference center. Then we have the Landcare teams. The Landcare teams are part of the Landcare committee, so they could be a nominee. But it says that we do not have to have a member of a Landcare. Now, we've been in discussion with Landcare, so that's something that we want to clear up. Because I was on an entity member of the Cottagers Wilderness and Open Space when Ann Vincent was chair. I sat on Landcare for 2 years, so I was one of the, so that's why I was asked. And no other considerations might have been, I mean, they could have asked 3 other people, but it was only within the Landcare group. So that's the dilemma that we're looking at with as far as reaching out and finding good leadership. Obviously, at the time, the guidelines will be discussed, and it's again here in the draft that Bill Seaman made out. But we are going to have discussions also about growing responsibility of the secretary treasurer, and in the sense of spreading the workload between 2 people. And Bill and I have been in discussion with that. We recognize, in conclusion, there can be a short bench of talent for participation and leadership in various committees in the whole Montreat community. Again, here is where we shall appreciate suggestions of qualified individuals, please. The nominating committee takes this very seriously. So that worksheet, if you were here, I think you had copies put out at each place.
Betty, do you have one?
And if even,
Huh? Yes, you need
oh,
one.
thank you.
Grab that one. Yeah.
These worksheets will be distributed to other past people who have been on Landcare chairs, et cetera. And it's one where we know that there are people out there, and there have been times when we have said, would you do something? And they were honored to do something. But sometimes in the monthly structure of officers, that's the pool that's harder to get sometimes. Not that we got you in there.
I've been here 2 months. What's Landcare?
Okay, all right. So any questions from any of you guys? Do you understand the difference now in what has been going on with bylaws and the changing of the election procedures? It wasn't until 2/21 that we could have an official nominating committee. In the past, it was, I would say, all loosey, but within the community of that committee, they knew some express. As Martha Campbell said, I knew because I was vice chairman and I was working in the committee with Bill Seaman. He was to 2 or 3 years. She was on for 4 years. She had 2 terms. So 2021 is now a nominating committee. Anyone out there, if you're listening, would like to be on the committee, you can give Bill Seaman or myself. Thank you. Any questions? And maybe what we could say, how you feel about a chair coming in from the community that have had other experiences. Think about that. You don't have to express it now, but
I'm just wondering if you're gonna need to do this again in August.
I'll be happy to.
Somebody's,
That's, Bill will be here then.
I don't know why we don't have anybody here who don't. Except for Betty, thank you, Betty.
Be happy to.
Would you be willing to?
Yeah, Bill is out of, I mean, he is out of town. At the last minute, he had something planned with family and families first.
Okay,
And I'm his backup. But we're seeking, and I've had calls out to 2 or 3 other people to be on the nominating committee.
good. And I have emailed this out to everybody. Did you get it?
Beth,
Yeah, I did. Sitting on my dining room table because I actually printed it out.
Good for you.
What, if we're trying to broaden out the committee, this form does not have space for non-officers that just may be members of the committee.
Well, this is for those 3 areas of the officers. Vice chair,
Yeah,
secretary, and
but what if we wanted to nominate someone who is not on any of the, I think you used the word teams, like,
well, that's what this is new.
That's what this is.
The bylaws, this is what's so brand new. In the past, we just assumed, not assumed, it didn't state in the old bylaws of 212. It didn't even say have a nominating committee, and then the election procedures, you would go to the meeting and you elect your people that day. The tree board does that. And they just elect within their committee.
okay. So what if we wanted somebody, but they didn't want to be any of the positions, but just be on the committee?
Well, they would either be a team member or an officer, or an appointee from the town, or the conference center, or the college.
Okay,
Yeah, that's what happened when I think with Martha Sloan was new when this year. But Jean, you have some words of wisdom, I'm sure.
Yes, the voting members of the committee are defined in the bylaws. So many people come in as team leaders and do a lot of work that is credited to Landcare, but they don't have vote unless they come in through the entities, appointed by the entities.
got it. Okay.
Yeah. As we know, Erin, you had been the Bearwise team, so she was part of Landcare.
I understood about a year ago, somebody realized that I was not
A voting member.
a voting member,
Of the Bearwise, when you were on the,
but I was chair,
yeah.
but was not a voting member. So they decided that I needed to be part of an entity to be able to do that, and there was a vacancy on the National Wildlife Federation.
Well, for you to be the chair of the committee, I interrupted, I'm
And
sorry.
the
To be the
secretary.
chair of the committee, you had to be, you had a vote, but you had to be part of the town, one of the town reps.
Right, so that's why.
But because you had been on a team, and then you were nominated and elected, that meant that you needed to have the voting right and be an entity person. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, that was fine.
And through the years, since 2004 or 7, I think they've had many votes. I've been up at Albion doing the 2 years, or 4 maybe, with Martha Campbell, and then previously, maybe many of some other people. I was never at a Bill Seaman meeting, but there would be a vote, and everybody would just say yay, nay. And there was never any say, you can't vote, or do we have a quorum? I was explaining that, because actually they always did have a quorum. They seem to have a very highly, attended, with the people. that were members. Okay.
So I'm giving you all a few minutes to fill out these, if you would. Just the people who are here, fill it out and give it to them.
And if you have if you wish, since it's just a small group, I can contact you, and if you don't have it finished, or think of somebody, so you wish, if we had 10, or 11,
And did you say that what you all have in mind is for the vice chair to move up to?
well, that was under the discussion of
Step.
nominating chair. He thought that is a good way to do it. That would have to be a bylaw change, because you would be a vice chair, Arrington. Since you followed me, you would have been vice chair, and I would have gone off, and then you would have been chair for 1 year.
Yeah, in August, I plan for a change to the secretary treasurer position, so I can just as well ask for a bylaw change for step-up chair.
Yeah, well, we could.
I'll let them know.
Yeah, we can do that, but it could be that you would have the discussion of a larger group, and then in September, say that there could be, we know we need to divide it. It could be like co-chairs, as we refer to it sometimes. Jean has done an amazing job as secretary, and a tremendous job, and I mean, it's just been a new look at the budget, looking at the new town manager, looking at the Black Creek Crossing with all fundraising that's going on. The treasurer should be separated, and this is the first time we've had a secretary treasurer, because the bylaw said we should have a treasurer. We have never had a treasurer until 2022, 21, because it's been the finance person reporting our monies. So it's a load for one person.
What I probably will do is send out that bylaw amendment, the change, the reason for the change, in an email prior to the August meeting.
Yeah,
So that people can think about it.
But that, you have to have education, and not vote that day, but wait till, but I think they could have a show of hands and say, yeah, I think this is right, and we should pursue it, because we want to, over the summer, recruit people, and we have been talking with people that are interested in being in leadership. So, because Bill, as I said, has done a tremendous job of reflecting on the past and the present and the future. And we want the strength, this is my final, we want the strength of Landcare to remain. We have to be strong. This used to be the Parks and Recreation of the town. This is a town committee, and we are independent in a lot of things related to the team chairs. But this is definitely a town committee. Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks, Gracie.
So if you all feel me, I can give them to Grace today, or you can wait. Okay, treasurer's report. Jean.
All right, there is little to report this time because the things that are momentous are probably going to hit in May, and we are now through April with the town report. Meeting this early in the month means that we're always a month behind in the town report. Okay, we had $1,410 in donations come in for Landcare, which means that our balance in the fund that is designated everything Landcare is $33,494.19 according to the town. We had from a separate line that's called departmental supplies. It started at $1,247. We spent $590 out of that, so that little fund is now down to $657.08. And that was $420 for website updates. We'll probably be doing another one of about that size in the month of June. And $170, which was a reimbursement for Flat Creek Crossing brochures. So both of those are actually kind of Flat Creek Crossing expenses, and they will end up accounted in my books to Flat Creek Crossing. We had a $13.99 charge for web hosting and a reversal of a duplicate charge from earlier in the year. So we had a net change of 0 in that little sub-account.
Okay.
which is now $1,818.24. We have yet to have these 3 funds collapse into 2. At this point, it's clear enough with the 3 that there's no urgency about it. But the plan was that we would end up with just 2 running accounts, one for stuff in and one for stuff out. And we're at the point now where we may lose a little bit from our main in account to have to be transferred into one of these expense accounts so that it's not constant budget adjustments, lump adjustment once and then work off of that account. So about 6,600 of the 33,000 plus a couple of thousand belongs to the Landcare Committee for committee purposes. The remainder was raised for Flat Creek Crossing. In this last budget request, we asked for a $1,000 increase from what has sort of become our typical infusion from the town, raising it from $1,500 to $2,500, with the intent that we will proceed with rebuilding the Landcare website. We've been accumulating money toward that for a while. I think we can do it. I don't yet know whether the town budget is actually passed yet. I don't think it is fully passed yet. So I don't know for sure whether we have that additional funds or not. Okay, we had erroneous donation instructions sent out for Flat Creek Crossing. Those have now been corrected with all the people who got those emails. The correct form information is on the website. So hopefully we don't have to have staff spending hours again trying to track down donations that went into the main fund for the town instead of into the Landcare sub-account. Okay, and our report doesn't yet show the $34,065 received from Pigeon River Fund, but it will be credited to the Landcare account when that is all finished. So, okay, other than that, I have some stuff that I can report when the time comes for Flat Creek Crossing, but that's it for the treasurer's report.
Okay, Jean, thank you. Okay, let's see, Beth.
Very short, very short. Last time I gave a pretty full report about looking at the Rocky Knob and everything that's coming up. I mentioned that we were going to have 2 educational meetings. I have the dates of those. They'll be the same thing. They're going to be right here in this room. The first one is July 6th, which is a Saturday at 10 a.m. And then that's 4th of July weekend. We thought we could catch a lot of folks there. The second one will be Sunday afternoon, July 14th, which is Patrons Weekend, and that one, again, right here at 2 o'clock. And all we're doing is pretty much the same thing I did with this committee last month. Just give the reasons, spend maybe 15 minutes telling everybody the history of what's happened and why and where we are, and then open the door to questions, comments, sarcastic remarks, anything they want to throw at me. So anyway, so that's where we stand on that. I have been working very, very hard to get in touch with the original donors, which there are a few left, and then reaching out to those we think may be family members. As an example, I got in touch with Gracie because her parents, I wanted to confirm that her parents were original donors. She will get a letter. You're going to get one for Davidson Phyllis. We'll get those as those original donor. I'm working hard to get the letter ready. That letter will go out probably in the next couple of weeks. All we're doing in that letter to the original donors is just making sure that we're doing the best we can, make sure they know that there's a change, and this is a place where they can learn about the change. The vote will happen at the Cottagers, working on that I think tomorrow, and that's all.
Okay, thank you, Beth.
Just information.
It's good information. Okay, Betty?
Dodged the weather and actually had a good day. Sale. I showed 15 minutes before, and I thought this was home looking like drum rats. Just load up, close early. Forecast was 9% chance of rain starting at 10. It didn't make a drop until 1:45. So either clean living or somebody loves us, or I don't know. I definitely see like we could have done it better, should have done it better. But all in all, like a happy, lovely celebration of Muntree community and the love of and caring for, particularly plants and trees and habitats they provide here. A couple of highlights. Introduction of a group of 3 sisters who had the produce and farm stand nursery in Marion. They bought 50 gallons of strawberries with them and sold them out before noon. They went back and got another. She also for me ordered native rhododendrons and native azaleas, sold all those out and went back another truckload. So they had the best day they've ever had. So again, it was great. I think it was measured for other vendors probably because everybody was buying shares. Other high point introduction of the tea party, which turned out to be so much, it was Beth's idea. She used it at the farmer's market. We had about 40 people actually come in and sit down and participate in the tea party. Oh, Jean, I sent you a copy of this so you can, you don't have to write frantically. I'm sorry, I see that. Sorry. That's the middle school teacher and you can't voice yet, but that's one. It was Beth's idea, and part of the vision was we had sort of some lovely things to eat, pretty table set, and bring in a vendor or two and let them tell a little bit about themselves. And it was really lovely moment. We had Jean about that. As a result, people wanted to go back to those places. I think we need to rethink, we need to rethink what's going to happen in the future. But one of the options would be sort of a more informational spring event rather than trying so much to set stuff. But that's another conversation. We did have a number of informational vendors in addition to the ones who sold things. And the documentary by the American Chestnut Restoration Group was well received, if not super well attended. But we didn't end up with about 20 people watching it, which is better than some of the people who attended the year before. I'm struck by the fact that so many of you have ties to the past and present of this Landcare board, and those people who have been on Landcare were invaluable to Beth and me in pulling this off. They just stepped up and made things happen because I had people dropping out the morning, sorry, this can't come to help you. But the people who have loved ties to this committee were just wonderful. And I can't mention them all. I was saying MRA continues to provide wonderful assistance, and Heather was ill that day, but Tracy and Betsy stepped up and were just wonderful. And then I have to say this, you know, I brought this today, but I just want to say that Jean Norris is a national treasure, and Jean was with them. I said that, you put in our book. It was, because she had worked also with a web designer, even when I wanted to change a word to it, always never work for her. So she's tried to get out of this, and she has the whole time I've been doing it, Jean's been helping me all along. It's been all the dust settles. The net cost is going to be somewhere in the vicinity of $150 for the cent. We dropped a lot of the printing and went with QR code, and Beth and I donated a lot of food out of our refrigerators that we used for breakfast and lunch and tea party. We did buy some strawberries and bought some supplies. I did pay some printing. So that's what after we the stuff the vendors gave, but it looks like it's going to be about $150 out of your pockets. So that is helpful. Having said that, we dodged the weather and had a good day, and that there's a real sense of community tied to this event. I do think that this committee is going to have to discuss carefully what happens next. So many vendors have sent us a place to go now. And I was struck by me, when I saw their list online, I realized, and they've got a very visible spot where even if you forgot it's happening that day, you see it in the car, and that's not going to happen. The same for us. But all that is, like, we don't have big live country, and people have planted, because I'm like, for breeze or it's out of time of just for an example, but that's just my thought. Beth, I do want to thank you all for the support and encouragement that we got. We wish we could all the best. Maybe we this party, and we have a party, and we have these kind of presentations, we set out the options. So this is an event that just brings to community all that comes through the Landcare community. The new realities that have occurred since the pandemic and since the proliferation of such events does, at least things that looking at this. It's not a bad thing to move on to doing something different. Sometimes we hang on to something that was in the past and not looking with reality at how it's changed. I'm not going to say what to do going forward, but I do want to say thank you. And Beth and I will certainly willing to help somebody, as Jean did me. I've got all the information and the checklist for what you do when you do it, and the vendors that have been contacted. But I would say you'll need to probably August or September make your planning so that you can at least set into motion what, if anything, you're going to look at doing next spring. So that's kind of where we are. Any questions?
Hey, are you saying that you're not going to run this again?
I'm not going to run this again.
What I would like you to do is to write down your suggestions. You and Beth got together, write it out, come back in August, present your options.
As today, I have house guests coming in an hour and a half. I have house guests in August, and it's just hard to get away when I've got at my breakfast table. And I just, so maybe, maybe have to just get it to, I don't know if Beth will come, but she might. So anyway, we can write down what we're just a 2-year window on this. You've got, people like Jean and Gracie who, and Mason and Blake matter, and I think the, Martha and Phil Campbell, I think people that have had some real investment in it, perhaps, maybe Beth and I'll just call get together a group of people who have some interest and see what the group's wisdom is, because what you hate to do is create that decision and take a whole time for that. So maybe what we do is get more wisdom than the two of us, because we're not sure we put together a whole brain between the two of us. So we might try to get some of those people who have best interest together over a glass of wine or a cup of tea and see what their input is, because I do think
come back to us.
And if it's not August, somebody will come to you in August, but it may or may not be, is my thought. and I'm headed to all
So
these.
somebody from Lady Sale who represents your thoughts,
Sure, who else have it written down?
so that we can discuss this.
Right, and what we'll try to do is maybe come with recommendations that you won't hurt our feelings if you don't take them. Of course. I'm also looking at.
Thank you. Okay, I've got a brief report from Bill Singh on community wildlife. Monterey is on track for recertification as a community wildlife habitat in 2024, with 20 of the 30 necessary, bye, Gracie. Okay. With 20 of the necessary points approved already. And one new property has been certified as a wildlife backyard this year. Because that concludes that report. Moving on down, I don't think I've left out any flat cross. Jean.
All right, there are points in there that I didn't get out of his message. Okay, all right. I'm just gonna read this because I thought about it this morning. We had a Flat Creek Crossing pre-award site inspection visit for the North Carolina Parks and Rec Accessible Parks Fund grant by the regional resource person, Blake Covington, at 3 p.m. on May 30th. Savannah Parrish, Jean Morris, and Patty Pyle were able to be there to walk the site and describe the locations of intended pieces of the accessible park. Our project received all the appropriate check marks, so it was a successful site visit. We learned from Blake that the total funds available this year exceed the requests, so they may have a second round of applications to be considered, but it's looking very good for us to receive funding, provided they don't find anything technically wrong with our proposal. Final decisions will be made August 23rd. The grant requires a 1-to-5 match, which is extremely favorable compared to all other grants in the world. If we receive this grant, we could be completing the entire physical construction beginning this fall. Our match, nearly complete from several sources, was promised to be $85,000, which would also allow building out the educational and online resources, which none of these funding authorities are interested in paying for. They think it's a cool idea, but they're not paying for it. We also have submitted a preliminary application to the Buncombe County Tourism Development Fund. If that is successful, we'll be invited to submit a full application by the 16th. We have not received that invitation yet. We don't know anything more. We're currently in a fundraising drive with a $50,000 goal to meet the match for the APF grant and to cover the development costs for the educational and web resources of the Flat Creek Crossing design. We will be at the 4th of July parade in matching t-shirts, which were produced by Gail and George Sawyer, and they're very cute. We plan to honor our donors to date at an event on July 5th, I think it is, at the William Black Lodge with music, wine, beer, and hearty snacks. Say what? Sure. That was music, yeah. And one of our early committee members has promised to fly in for that event, and she is also a performer, so it could be a really interesting meeting. Okay, end of report.
Great, that sounds like fun. Okay. All right, let's see, is there any unfinished business that we need to get into? All right, Nancy Midge came to me the other day, and she's gonna come back in August with this fleshed out fully. She's concerned about the leaf collection situation in Moultrie, trying to get away from the bags and having some company or maybe the town come along with the truck and suck up leaves. I, for one, am really in a dangerous position trying to drag my bags down the driveway. But then I'm going to have to blow them down the driveway. So it's a 50-50 for me. But anyway, I think we're going to have a discussion about that, and may even have to have a vote on that to take it to town council in August. We'll just see who shows up. Okay. Anyway, Nancy asked me to throw that out to you. So what is your thought right now with everyone? Anybody have a thought?
If we bag them, that's an additional expense, like buying the big brown bags. I just throw mine over every space. I got a big mound of yard trash back there. So for me, it's, either way. I think it's a neat idea. I think it's good as an option. Arrington, you want to borrow my wheelbarrow sometime?
But I got fussed at because I was doing the same thing you were doing. I was blowing the leaves across the street into the green space. And I got fussed at because there was this mound of leaves.
Do you own the green space? Do you own the green space? No, I don't. No, well, I own the green space.
That's your fault.
So, yeah, it's owned by 6 entities in my neighborhood. I'm one of them. So we pay taxes on it every year.
Okay.
Oh, yippee.
All right.
So,
Jim, how do you feel about it?
Well, I think leaf collection from some kind of vacuum equipment is a useful idea. I have no idea how much it's gonna cost.
Yeah,
I think the town is considering that. I remember a remark at the budget discussion that I think was on the same topic, which was salary increases versus leaf pickup. Salary increases are more important. So we don't have money to burn in our budget, and I think it's probably gonna come down to a budget issue, really.
and where would the leaves go if they were vacuumed up?
Well, wherever they go
Well,
now.
your Landcare, you should, you should care.
Wherever they go.
Do they go in the
Somebody wants
landfill?
perhaps, I don't
Do they go in the landfill? Are they composted?
know.
What do they
Okay.
do?
Shit, they do it, but I think they do too.
And where do the leaves go?
Where do they go after they're suctioned up?
That part I'm not entirely certain of.
Yeah,
Dump 'em.
Where we take stuff that is brush and stuff out, now those are picks up twigs and things you can put out on the curb on Wednesday. They bunch it all up and then they pick it.
it'd be interesting to know, in the big picture, if we're concerned about land, where does that go? What happens to it?
I would think that if you took them out in the woods somewhere and dumped them, they compost out there, they enrich the soil.
Yeah, that's my thought. That's my thought, is, that's why I
It's a
throw them
lot
over
of
the
leaves.
fence in our green space, so.
Okay, if you all have these ready, you could give them to Gracie, and that will be done. At least our three will be done.
Yes. There you go. Okay.
Okay, if there's no other business,
All I
Y'all
know.
did better than I did.
next meeting is August the 7th,
Good.
and we are adjourned. Because I'm saving paper. Well, it's not because, it's just.
No, you recycle.
Yeah, I would do.
No, mine was Nick.